A group of state lawmakers worry that recent measures are targeting black elected officials in Louisiana, especially New Orleans.
Andres Fuentes speaks with political experts who say Governor Landry might very well prevail in this fight.
The Louisiana Black Legislative Caucus rallied together Monday, outraged over Governor Jeff Landry's decision to pause congressional elections until a new congressional map can be drawn.
The issue today is whether or not a person who looks like me will have an opportunity to serve in Congress.
The governor's move came after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Louisiana's current map with 2 majority black districts is unconstitutional, since race was a factor in its formation. The election pause, coupled with bills to eliminate black elected officials like Orleans Parish Criminal Court Clerk Calvin Duncan, caused outrage among caucus leaders.
They wasn't satisfied with Judge Gravelly here in the Middle District of what he did last night, so they went to the Fifth Circuit to get that overturned. Now they're trying to remove black judges in New Orleans as well.
With the caucus supporting court battles against the measures, political analysts say it could be an uphill battle.
Proving blatant racism in court is always very difficult.
Dillard University political analyst Dr. Robert Collins says, per the Supreme Court ruling, states are allowed to create congressional maps based on party, meaning the governor could be justified in approving maps that eliminate black majority districts if it benefits his party.
The Republican supermajority in the state legislature wants to send more Republican congressmen to Washington.
As for the measures against the Orleans Parish Criminal Court Clerk and the criminal court judges, Loyola law professor Dane Cialino says GOP lawmakers could get a win in those cases too.
It's somewhat surprising that there have not been institutional changes in the court system for this long.
Cialino says it's difficult to argue against the legislation when supporters cite New Orleans' need to downsize.
There is a rational basis in population decline, in uniformity across the state, that I think it would be a difficult case to prove some sort of intentional race-based discrimination.
Now, we did reach out to Governor Jeff Landry's office for a response to the Legislative Black Caucus's comments, but we did not hear back. This